Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to you students. So here we are going to start with the part 2 of this chapter, that is the call of the soil. So we had completed in the previous lecture the introduction part of the chapter. Right now here we are going to start with the explanation of the chapter. Ascent of a rice, the first crop. So basically here he is going to talk about the first crop that he cultivated and that he got to ripe that. So what was the experience, basically how did he feel when he was was done with the ripping of the first crop, and while sowing that, everything in detail he explained over here, the experience, the emotions that he gone through, everything. It was April 2004. I stood in the middle of the lush green field of mow, green gram, and looked around me. So basically, what he's talking here, basically, it was the year of 2004 in the April, and he was standing in the middle of the green field, a lush green field. Lush means basically a dense, with a green leaves and something. So it was a lush green field, and that was of moong, that is green drum. Okay, and looked around me, and while standing in the middle of that farm, or like we can say the field, basically he looked around himself, and it was just before sunrise and the sky was turning a bright orange. So that time was just before the sunrise, and he is basically explaining the view how it was exactly. So what he's saying, it was turning to be the bright orange, and then the ground was damp and the leaves were shining with dew. Obviously, as it's the sun is about to rise, that means that was the very early morning time. So that time the floor, or the field will be damp, obviously. So that's what he's saying, the field was damp, and there was dew on the leaves over there everywhere. And apart from there, that what he's saying, that the leaves were shining due to the dew, and my bare feet were muddy as I walked around gingerly. Gingerly means, obviously, if we are walking through the field which is damp, which is muddy, so obviously we have to be extra careful, right? Or else we can slip down, or our feet will get deep into it, so there can be a problem. So we have to be extra careful while walking on that, and we have to be very particular regarding that. So that's what he's saying over here, that I looked around and walked gingerly, inspecting the plants. So basically what he was doing, he was inspecting the plants around him which was there. And then later what he did, around me were rows of chiku trees, and below a dense foliage of moong. So basically what is foliage, like the leaves of a plant or something there, and it was very dense, basically he's saying here. So the place where he was standing, around him there was the rows of chiku, okay, the chiku trees, and below that there was the dense foliage, okay, of moong, basically, as we just discussed, that the green gram or the moong he's talking about. At that point I could not have asked for anything more. So what he's saying, the way everything looked that time, and the whole beautiful experience or the scenario around him, the view around him, so he is very happy, he is feeling very satisfied and contented. And what he's saying, that I could have never asked something better than this, or something, or anything more than this, I could have ever asked. And then the moong plants, not more than 2 feet tall, had green pods hanging out. Green pods, the large part of any green leaves or something like that, or which contains seeds in that. So that's what called as pods. Okay. So what he's saying, there were the moong plants around him, which was not more than 2 feet taller, usually the much they grow, and they had green pods hanging out over there, and the pods were not yet ripe, and there was a light fuzz growing on them. So what he's saying, basically, it was not ripe yet, means it was not the time to of ripping yet, to cut the crop, basically. So that's what the process of ripping. So that's what he's saying, it was not the time of ripe yet, but and what he's saying, there was a light fuzz growing on them. If you have ever been to the farms, or to the field, to the cultivation field, if you have been there ever, so you would have seen that in a curls, or like the green curls kind of sort of thing you will see on the leaves on above of that. So that's what he's talking about. So the light fuzz was growing on them. There was still some time before the harvest. I felt exhilarated. And what he's saying, like there was still some time before harvesting that, and he was like feeling very exhilarated regarding that, like yes, finally he's going to cut his first crop, and like the very first experience of himself about the farming and everything. I stood watching the sunrise above the towering trees across the fence and slowly made my way back to the house, a white structure in the middle of this greenery. So, what he's saying, that I was standing, and watching at the sunrise, and that was above the towering trees. Like, the huge tall trees were there around, so above that the sun was rising, and he was basically making the way to towards the his house. And what he's saying, across the fence and slowly, fence means what, basically the boundary kind sort of thing, that we build around the field, that's what the fence basically. So what he's saying, across the fence and slowly made my way back to the house. So he walked slowly through the fences, and then he went back towards the house, a white structure in the middle of this greenery. And that was a white structured house in the middle of the this whole thing. And I could not believe that I was the owner of this land, and that I was looking at my first crop as a farmer. So what he's saying, that I still cannot believe that I am the owner of this land, and I have done all this farming with my own hands, and I have done this much hard work. And he couldn't believe still that yes, I have done everything and I am the owner of this land, and I have done all the work being a farmer. That was a big deal for him, and that's what he was most happiest about. After I had paid the advance money for the land, I thought I would have some time to get familiar with farming. But Moru Dada, the broker who got us the land, had other ideas. So now what happened basically after, like so basically now he's sharing the experience, that how it all happened, how he got the land and how he started the farming on that land basically. So now he's starting from there. So what he's saying, when I paid the advance money basically, so after that what he thought, that after buying the land, or like after paying the advance money to the owner, the previous owner of that land, what he thought, that I will have some time to get to know more about the farming and the whole process and the procedures and everything. So I will get to learn everything slowly, that's what he thought. But the Moru Dada, there is a person called Moru Dada who is the broker, means through whose help he got the land. Okay, so he is the broker. Okay, so now what he's saying, the broker who got us the land had some other ideas, whatever he thought. But the broker who got the land to him, he had some another plans. And then what happened, I was not prepared for this. I was still reading books and trying to figure out what we could sow and how we should go about it. So what he said, I wasn't prepared still. That time I wasn't prepared that what to sow and what to do and everything. And he was still reading books regarding the farming and everything, that what I can sow this time, like, or the proper season will be for which kind of a crop and everything. He was still reading about that, the books and everything. But Moru Dada was quite firm. But Moru Dada was like firmly there, like with some other plan. He said the season was right for sowing moong and the best seeds were available in Surat, in the adjacent state of Gujarat. So what he said, basically, the Moru Dada, what he said to him, that this is a proper season to sow the green grams, that is moong. So this is the perfect suitable season for that. And the best seeds you can get in the adjacent of the Gujarat. Adjacent means like just next to or near about, that's what. I made a quick trip to Surat and bought around 10 kilograms of moong. So what he is saying, basically, he quickly made a trip where, towards the Surat. Okay, and to get those the to get the moong basically. So he got 10 kilograms of moong basically. Moru Dada rented his tractor to plough the land and quickly planted moong all over the place. And then what happened later, he basically got the tractor, who Moru Dada, to do all the farming work and everything, and then they planted moong all over the place, or all over the field basically. A few days later we were overjoyed to see tiny green leaves. I had never seen moong growing before, and I was thrilled at the sight. So what he's saying, like just few days later, when we planted the seeds, just after few days of that, I was overjoyed, to see the tiny green leaves were growing. So basically, he was like, happy that yes, his hard work is paying off now. And like whenever we do something new, or like something innovative, or something we have never experienced before, so when that thing comes into like full thrill, or like when it comes to existence actually, or when we get the result of that work, we actually get so happy and satisfied with our own work, that yes, our hard work is paying off finally. And yes, it is there, it's happening, actually it's taking place. So that's what kind of a happiness he had that time, when he got to see the tiny seeds of the moong. And then I had never seen moon growing before and was thrilled at the sight. And what he's saying, that before this I have never witnessed the moon growing, and this is the first experience for him. It was the same thrill I had felt as a young boy when I saw the first of the hibiscus I had planted bloom at the railway quarters in Ville Parle in Mumbai. So what he's saying, this I was thrilled with the this happiness. I was so excited. I was so happy, and and I was this excitement was exactly like when I was the young boy, and I got to see I planted the hibiscus flower in the railway quarters when I was there. So when I planted that, and when that came into existence, and when that bloom, so that happiness what I felt that time, exactly the same what I'm feeling right now. And that was in Ville Parle in Mumbai, when I planted the hibiscus flower and that bloomed. I was grateful to have taken Moro's advice, and he was feeling good actually. Sometimes we regret to take someone else's advices, but sometimes if that work got done properly and we got to see the results, we obviously get satisfied with our decisions also, and for the suggestion of that person also, that yes, he suggested something which is good for us, and that proved to be the correct one for us. So that's what he felt like, and he felt very proud that yes, I have taken some good decisions and I got the advice from the right person. And after that, the next thing Moru Dada wanted to do was spray some pesticides on the plants. He claimed that it would give a higher yield. This was something we did not want to do. Now, these much things happen. Okay, he planted the moong and everything. Now he took the advice of Moru Dada. But now there was another suggestion of the Moru Dada, and the advice basically we can say. So what was that? It was about the spraying the pesticides. So the next thing that he suggested to do, or he wanted him to do, was to spray the pesticides on the plants. And what he said, Moru Dada, what he said, that it would give a higher yield, the crops will grow faster and in a good quantity. That's what he said. If you will spray the pesticides, your crops will grow faster and will grow in a good quantity, or a dense quantity. This was something we did not want to do. We were clear that we would not use any chemicals, and tried to explain it to him. So what he said, basically, we were very much clear. Obviously, this is the one thing that we did not want to do. We were not at all prepared or ready, or in favor of spraying the pesticides or any kind of a chemicals on our field or on our crops. He was very clear about it. He was not at all in doubt or in confusion or anything. No. He was just very much clear that no, I do not want to spray any chemicals or pesticides on my crops. And after that, he reacted as if he had suggested harakiri. Harakiri means what? As if the formal way of killing yourself, or by wounding yourself, like on a stomach or somewhere, like with a knife or a sword, like that. So when I tried to explain it to him that no, I do not want to spray the chemicals or the pesticides on my plants, so he reacted as if I suggested him harakiri. Okay, it took a lot of convincing to ensure that Moru Dada and his friends did not use any chemicals on the farm, and it took a lot of time and convincing that to convince Moru Dada basically and his friends that not to spray the chemicals on the plants. They refused to understand how crops could grow without sprays, and they were not ready to, accept or to, to agree that the crops cannot grow without the spray of pesticides or the chemicals. They were not ready to, agree with that. That yes, the crops or the plants can grow without the chemicals also. They were not ready to accept that. They were not ready to agree with that. Contrary to what everyone had told us, nature did her job and she needed no bribes to get the work done. Soon it was harvest time and we managed a respectable 300 kilograms. Now, opposite to all these, whatever the people told us that your plant, your crops will not grow properly or like with a good quantity or like the faster, it won't grow like if you don't use the pesticides. That's what the everyone was telling him. But opposite to all, contrary to all, what happened? The nature did her job. Means the way nature grow everything, it did the same thing happened with his crops also. The nature always finds its own way, right, as we have always witnessed. And as we know, the plants grow on it the way they grow on their own, without pesticides, without chemicals also. Basically the kind of organic farming we are talking about, where we do not use any kind of chemicals, pesticides. So that's what he wanted. He always was in favor of organic farming. He did not want to do or use the chemicals on his farm. So what he's saying, the nature did its job, and obviously the nature do not need any bribe like the way the humans need. Like if you want any work to get done faster, you need to bribe the other person sometimes, right? Sometimes, not most of the times, right? If you want your work to be done earlier or faster, you have to bribe the other person many times, right? But with nature it's not at all like that. If you want something, if you want to do something with the organic way, so you don't need to pay for that. So basically indirectly what he's saying, like if we are you know uh, spraying pesticides, so it's not necessary to do that, because there is a way of organic farming also, and we can do that. It's not just about the using pesticides are always good or something like that, or like just it will grow a lot of food or something like that. So it's not necessary all the time. We need to focus on the organic farming so that it can be good for our health as well. We need to look up to this matter as per our health benefits or the health perspective also. Then we will realize the importance of organic farming. So then the people will realize how important it is for all of us to do the organic farming. And that's what he tried to make everyone realize about it. An awful lot of moong, and basically they managed. Okay, before the harvesting time, they managed the how much kilograms of moong? 300 kilograms. An awful lot of moong, and with it, a lot of confidence. And obviously, that was too much of moong, and he was very much confident now. Obviously, if you are doing the farming for the first time, for the first time ever, so you will be in doubt, maybe previously or in the beginning process. But when you will get to see your own crops are growing and are like with full lush green leaves on it, and like then finally the crop came out, and like it's in full swing, and obviously you will feel happy about it, and you will feel like yes, whatever you wanted, you got it now. And then you will get a lot more confidence in yourself, so that you will start doing it again. And whatever the people will be telling you against of that, now you won't be bothered about that if you got to see what you wanted, right? And later, now I was certain that the land was fertile and that it was possible to grow crops without chemicals. Now, when he got to to ripe the first crop of himself or of his own field without using chemicals or the pesticides, so what he got to realize, or what he was confident now about, that this land is properly fertile, and apart from that, it is possible to grow the crops without the chemicals or the pesticides also. It was a major morale booster. Obviously, that became the a major morale booster for him, that he got very much confident now that yes, I can grow the crops without chemicals. The scent of rice. The first year I was late for the rice sowing season, and had to resort to growing the GR4 variety. That so we will complete this part in here. And now what he's saying basically, the another part that he's talking about is, see here. So the scent of rice, now he is going to start with the rice. Okay, so the first year when he started the growing the crop, that was too late for him to grow the rice. For rice, if we talk about, there's a proper season where we can do that, or we cannot cultivate rice of the whole 12 months of the year. So for the first time when he started with the cultivating crops, so it was too late. Okay, then later what he did, had to resort to growing the GR4 variety. So he was he thought to grow the GR4 variety of rice, was short term and recommended by agricultural officers at Kusbad. So basically in Kusbad, that's what he got the suggestion from the agricultural department or the officers, that this can be the good kind of rice for the shorter duration. The next year we decided that we would start early and try to find some good traditional variety of rice to grow. This time they did this GR4 variety of rice, but later what he thought, that in the next coming year we will be growing some old or the good traditional rice in the upcoming year. And we had read about traditional varieties of rice and knew that they did not require very high inputs of fertilizers. So what he's saying, that we got to hear about that, there are some traditional varieties of rice that we came to know, and that does not require very high inputs, high quantity of fertilizers. These varieties were also quite strong and resisted pest, and they were of the high and good strong quality which resist pesticides. Okay, that do not require the pesticides. Basically, we were sure that it was this type of rice that would grow well in our farm, where we did not use any chemicals at all. So, and they were very much sure that this is the rice which we can grow on our farm or on our field, which will not require any kind of pesticides or anything. Our previous year's experience and low yield had taught us a lesson, and we were sure we would not plant hybrids this year. So basically, what he said, the our previous experience basically, which was of low yield, low harvesting when we got to see. So that taught us that we will not do the hybrid planting, or the to plant the 2-3 crops at the same time, or 2-3 different things at the same time on a field. So that's what he said. We are certain now that we are not going to do the hybrid planting. We will focus on only one crop or one thing only. In April 2005, we started to look for a good variety of traditional rice. And in the year of 2005, that was in April, what he started to look for the good variety of traditional rice. Okay, it was one of our neighbors in the village, a businessman from Mumbai who owned land, who suggested that we plant a local scented variety of rice. So what he said, basically, there was one neighbor in the village who was a businessman, who is a businessman basically in Mumbai, and who had his own land over here in the village. So what he suggested, that that they plant a local scented variety of rice. That's what he suggested. Most of the farmers in and around the village of Pet had switched over to hybrids. So basically, most of the villagers, they switched to hybrid varieties of crops. They switched. So the younger generation of farmers thought I was crazy to ask for the desi variety, as they called it. So when I asked for the desi variety of rice, so the especially the younger generation of the village, what they thought when I asked for the desi rice or the desi traditional rice, they thought I am crazy. The way they were talking. My regular visits to villages around searching for a good traditional variety also did not yield any results, and we were almost giving up hope. So basically, like continuously I was visiting the neighboring village, but at the same time I was not getting to see any of the results of that. And we both, all of us basically were very much like disappointed with that we were almost about to give up on that. So I hope you must have understood this much. Thank you so much. The remaining part we will be completing in the